Hey, welcome everyone to the Grdina classroom. Today is a phenomenal day because we have a wonderful guest, all in with Ange. Her name is Angela Johnson, longtime friend, and I am just so elated that she's here. So welcome everyone, Ange.
Thank you so much, John. Now, isn't that crazy? We met probably around 2000, was it?
Yeah, it's been 2000.
And think of that. Back then, the age gap was so much more significant. But now that we're older, we're adults, it's like nothing. I was probably I was 12, I think.
I don't know how old you are now. I know you're in your 30s, so I'm guessing that we were probably at least 6 to 8 years difference.
Yeah, it was a bigger difference back then, even though it's not technically a bigger difference now.
It seems, I guess, from your perspective, because you were younger, to look up at your older brother and me being at John Carroll together and be like, man, Carmen's big boy now playing college baseball and doing his studies. And then now it's like, hey, we're all the same. Once you get past 30, I feel like everyone's pretty much in the same boat.
Yep, it's about that perception, which I think we'll get into.
Yeah. So a little context that Ange brought up is my best friend, and especially during college playing baseball together, his name is Carmen. We were at the hip together. We did everything together and just had a great time in our 4 years of college. And then after he left college, as things go on, there was a passing of their father. I believe it was around 2010.
2009, but yeah.
2009. Okay, I was right around that era. I remember because my wife was pregnant. I remember that's when the time that your father passed. So we'll talk about that. But before we get into some tragedy, let's talk about why she is such an electric entertainer who loves what she does and is really in her niche right now, which is a certified life coach. So, Ange, why don't you just kind of tell us why you're so passionate about what you are doing right now?
Yeah, so I do feel like it's about the journey in life, right? In general, I feel like I was meant to be an entrepreneur in some way. I just didn't really realize it. Actually, not that long ago, as I was navigating a lot of what I'm going through now, I questioned myself, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, is this right? And then actually pretty quickly I said, well, yeah, like you're meant for this. In some capacity, I just feel like I'm meant for it. So to give you a little background, I'm half Lebanese, half Italian. You probably know that, John. But for those listening and watching, so I grew up with a nana. And I remember my nana asking me when I was a young girl, what do I want to be when I grow up? And my answer was, well, you know what? No, I'm not really sure because I enjoy so many things. I like to do so many things. And that makes perfect sense to me now because I have different outlets for different things in my life. And life coaching just so happened to kind of fall into place as one of those. The creativity that goes behind it and the thought process, the strategy, the personality, you know, how you put yourself out there, all of that. And that pretty much happened by chance. But I do think that in a sense, I was kind of nurtured growing up to have that, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And here's this. I have a podcast that I was passionate about a few years ago. I didn't know how to start it. I don't come from an entrepreneurial background. I just knew that I wanted to do one and that I would do whatever it took. It didn't matter how many views I had or who was behind me. Like I just wanted to do it. I wanted to get my message out there. And if people wanted to bite, they could bite. And so started this podcast just because of that. And I stayed curious, right? Like I stayed curious enough to want to learn more and just feel like things started really falling into place. And the only reason why I started my LLC a couple years ago now, or maybe it was last year, was because I wanted to protect myself from anybody coming after me on my podcast saying that I might have given bad advice or something like that. Now, that's probably not likely, but I'm the type of person I like to plan, prepare, and cover myself. So the LLC started that way. But I will tell you that as far as life coaching, I really really started noticing maybe just a couple years ago how much I enjoy helping others. And I know you enjoy helping others, how much that makes a difference. Listening to your calling, listening to God. And people would tell me just how much I helped them. And I didn't really think much of it except, well, great. I'm so happy that you feel better, because I've been in your shoes and I want to make a difference. But I really didn't think much of it in that sense of it could be a career of some sort. And so I just started dipping my toes into different things, into different waters. And one thing led to the next. And let's rewind here for a second. You mentioned my dad's passing, and we could talk about that a little bit
Yeah,
too.
let's talk about that. Yeah.
So before we get into that, though, I just want to mention a little bit how I even got into this life coaching specifically. So years ago, I started following this girl on YouTube, and let's just say I followed her for over a decade, right? Well, then her sister, a few years back, actually got into life coaching herself. So she was my coach one-on-one. She was just getting started out. And so fast forward just a few years ago for me, I was just wanting to learn more and saw that, hey, she's really growing and doing well for herself. And this could be something interesting. So I bought a couple courses, which then led to the next thing, which then led to the next thing. So I wouldn't have even necessarily found this had I not been just following someone else on YouTube because it interested me for makeup and hair and whatever it was at the time, and then grew from that. So again, it's just about that process and trusting that things will just unravel how they're supposed to.
I think I call it throwing mud like against the wall. Is you just keep taking mud and throwing it against the wall, and eventually something's going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
And what sticks is your gifts and your passions coupled together, and you're actually serving. And really, that's the foundation of it, is that you love to use your creativity. I loved how you said so eloquently, like you stayed curious. So you follow this lady on YouTube, and one thing led to the next, and you were just learning along her journey. And then she planted a seed with you during that time. And then all of a sudden, you started to understand what your gifts were more and how you could serve your purpose better. And there's no better field than for what you're doing right now, which is life coaching. So I'm so happy that you're in this field. And it really is a true blessing and a calling, because we have an opportunity to help people maybe get out of depression or to start a new journey in their life and to maximize their potential. Instead of, say, a Les Brown quote is, letting your music die in the grave, and all the gifts that you were given will perish.
Just got
And
killed.
yeah, it's the word. It's the word. I think that's one of the things that drives me, and I'm sure it does to you as well, is you see people who are either suffering or not either close to unleashing their full potential. And you're like, that person would be so great at this if I could just mentor them and coach them along. Let's talk, if you want to, we go two different routes. We could either go a little bit deeper into the YouTube journey that you followed, the young lady, or maybe a pain point, which was your father's passing.
Yeah, let's talk about my dad, because I feel like that was such a pivotal point,
Yeah.
to say the least, for me. And the best way I can explain it is, for me, it just felt like I was starting a completely new life. It felt like a horror movie, the way it all happened. So my dad passed away suddenly. It was a shock to everybody. And so I was very caught off guard, and I had a very close relationship with my dad, especially as I started coming into my own as a woman and got to see a little bit of that side of him as an adult. But I loved my father dearly, and that was very rough. So the best way I can explain it is I felt like starting over, like I was starting from scratch. And every day I didn't know what I was getting into, and I felt kind of like a robot. I, for a while, was on medication. I have seen therapists. I am fully capable now of doing what I need to do. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, by the way. that's why people are there. That's why we all do what we do, is to make the world go round. And so, it was just one of those trying to figure out what my life was going to look like. It was so different from what I was used to. And growing up, I was the type of person, believe it or not, who kind of was shy in a sense. Like around certain people, I was myself. But when it came to being around people in the public, going around with my parents, being introduced, I would kind of just like shy away a little bit. And so I hadn't yet come out of my shell. And so now I have this important figure taken from me who helped me stay comfortable. I was no longer comfortable. I was very uncomfortable and had to learn how to pick up the pieces. And you actually said something, John, that reminds me of my dad, because I say it so often. You said planted the seed. So my dad, I'm getting chills. I'm in a hoodie and I have chills all over my body right now. Okay. If you know me, you know me. Okay. So my dad was the type, he wanted to follow his dreams, knew that life could be so much better if you just let it in, let in your blessings and just try and be a good person. And I mean, he loved to learn and he planted the seed, and I'm not kidding. And if Carmen's watching or listening, maybe he can attest to this. I remember when I was younger, I can't tell you around the age, but I was maybe a young teenager, if that. My dad said something to me, "Hey, Angie, I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen. Are you listening?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm listening." All right. And he said, "Okay, I want you to know that you are capable of anything, that your mind is capable. What you tell yourself, what you tell your mind is what you become. You understand me?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, Dad." And he said, "Well, because listen, one day I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here. And I want you to know that. You understand?" And I said, "All right, Dad, I understand." And then that was that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely a very important time in my life, but I can tell you that it is possible to overcome. I think about my dad every day. If you lost someone that you love, I'm sure you can relate. But I don't let it stop me. It actually fuels me. It gives me life. Like I think about this stuff and it makes me feel like I have purpose, like I am keeping my father alive in that regard.
Well, I think I just had this conversation with a colleague of mine at work, and it was sparked from the beginning of the morning where I witnessed a gentleman on Instagram who I know, who was a ultra runner, and he had his best friend die in the line of duty. And his pain point of that happening has created almost like this monster in a good way of passion for what he loves to do, is chasing ultra running in the woods. So then I told her that, do you know how crazy it is that death actually brings out life to others? It hit me like a ton of bricks this morning. And both of us as believers, like, because of Jesus' death, we actually could go live out our lives. Because we know that his death, your father's death, my buddy's death, actually a former baseball player, he died 3 weeks ago, young man. And these pain points of people who were young, who didn't have a chance to live a fulfilled life, we go out and almost live out, not in their way, but in somewhat of a way of parallels, to remember them because we love them and honor them. And we're showing them that we're proud of what they did while they were here on earth. But the best part is they're looking down saying, keep going. You're capable. You're strong. Whatever your mind put in, you could output, and you could go be a light to others in this dark world. And what your father did in saying that conversation that resonated with you that one day was he did plant that seed. And what's so beautiful about it is that inside, like in your mind, you have a field of being fruitful. And now you're going and you're planting seeds into people's lives and offering them hope in those new fields that they will grow in their life to prosper. What a beautiful, isn't that a beautiful way to think about it?
Oh gosh, it absolutely is. And it's so nice because it's not nice in the sense that we all go through it, but it's nice in the sense that we can connect about it and relate to each other and help each other. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on an enemy, and I don't have enemies. I mean, not at least from my angle. I
Yeah,
wouldn't wish death like that on anyone. And it's just nice though that you can't change it. You can't change it, but what you can do is what you can do, which is
yeah,
do something.
that's a fact, Jack. And I think a lot of people get caught in their own mush. It's mud to me. Again, I use the mud analogy, but this one where they get stuck in the mud. And the only way to get out of it is just take small steps. Just start moving. And eventually you're going to get out of that mud pit to drier land. But what a coach does, and Ange is telling us so gratefully, is that they're there to pull you out quicker. One of the best lines from my mentor was, why have a coach? Well, think about it from sports, right? If you didn't have a coach, you would not produce well, no matter what sport you had played in. But as a life coach, the best thing is if people want to get to their destination faster, they take you, the Ferrari. If they want to figure it out by themselves, they take an old 1990 taxi to wherever their destination is. And that's the difference. You have the roadmap to help them get there faster in the right vehicle, where most people are just still sitting in that old taxi cab trying to get to their next destination without GPS and an old map. It's so true, though. But
Yep.
we all have,
Sometimes we just get
you
in our
know,
own ways, and sometimes we just could use that little bit of help. Maybe somebody cheering you on, helping you see it from a different angle, maybe just helping you find what you're passionate about, what you like, what your strengths are, what your gifts are, because everybody is so different. And I wouldn't expect the person sitting next to me to be on the same path that I'm on. If that was the case, I actually might question it and say, well, why are you doing what I'm doing? That's not how I know you, or
yeah.
that's not what I thought maybe was within your future. So I just feel like sometimes having that person next to you who supports you, but also isn't just your yes man, right? Is going to keep you in check, but cheer you on, and maybe has also been there to keep you moving forward in that direction you want to go.
And that's a great coach. I mean, I've had many great mentors in my life, and I know you have too. And now that we both are wiser and coaches, it's just a testament of our character to almost have a vision for people based on their values and their abilities and aptitudes, and say, where's the best fit for you to feel fulfilled and to live on mission with purpose? And then we're just there to help guide them on the map for themselves to get to their destination, but not so much faster. I know I said that earlier, but actually to have joy and peace along that journey instead of feeling like every day is hell on
Oh,
earth.
yeah.
Because some people feel like that. And I know you've talked to people like that, and it's really sad, but we've all been there, so we can't judge. But to get them out of that valley quicker is such a great feeling, because then I was part of that journey, neck and neck with them, holding them around the shoulders, getting them out of that valley to their prosperity, to
Well,
their
I like how
potential,
you
which,
gave the example of sports too, because with sports, when you have a coach, you get down to business, you're
hmm
practicing, you want to get really good, you're competitive, but in the same sense, you're rallying, you're cheering, you're having fun with your teammates, you're goofing off during games sometimes, and it's about having fun too. I mean, there's
yeah,
a way to have fun, enjoy the process. Now, when you're talking about death and all that, of course, that's a little bit different, but if it's something else, maybe similar, like to just getting closer to your goals in some sense, yeah, you can have fun. You can have fun.
I'm going to ask you a question, and then I want to ask you about this NLP program. The question I have is, when working with people, what do you think one of the toughest things for them to do is to just get out of their rut that they're in?
The toughest things for them to do to
Yeah,
be able to get out of it.
yeah, like they're stuck wherever they're at, and they're just like, hey, Ange, I need help with this. And maybe a common theme you have seen,
Yeah.
something that you
Well,
may notice.
I feel like first the common theme is you don't know what you don't know.
hmm
If
Awareness.
Right. Awareness, being aware that it's happening, aware that you want it to change, the desire to want to change it, but also getting out of your own way and trying to see others' perspectives. So I know that that's not one thing, but I feel like those are all common. And when I say looking at it from other perspectives, it's not even just like compassion, because when you have compassion, it's like you feel it and you want to do something to change it to make it better, which is great. But sometimes it's even just empathy or an understanding of, oh, I didn't think of it like that. There was a time, and I won't get into details, not for my own sake, but for this person's sake, years ago, something came up and I was just so hurt. And so I talked to this person about it. And then she explained to me her side of it. And I went, my gosh, I didn't even think of it like that. And then guess what? My compassion kicked in and my hurt went away. It's about communication. It's about being aware enough to know that you don't know everything, but you want to get better. And you're willing to tell yourself, I'm wrong and I don't know, and I'm sorry to other people. Having that ability and to just be humble and have the humility to know that it's okay. Like, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. We just got to help you get there. We got to help you
Well,
get.
that's good. That's a good way to put it, because I think a lot of people, what you said, you don't know what you don't know. I'm just going to double down what you said, because I think it's so important that people hear this clearly. Your perspective on things is based on your belief system and environment in which you grow up in. If you were to change and shift that to a growth mindset in all aspects of your life, you have to hear from another perspective. And number one, take your pride down in the ego to humility and willingness to learn, accept, and to love and listen while you grow. And if you're able to do those things well, and you're not going to be perfect by any means, no, but if you could do those things well and get better along the way in your life, all your relationships are so much healthier. The character you are developing is so much better. And people want to be around you because they notice something different about you, is that you're growing and you're becoming a Christ-like individual who loves compassionately, and they could see it because it radiates off of you. And that's what's, to me, that's what the ultimate fulfillment is for our lives, is to be like Christ at the end, the best we can. And we're there to help along that beautiful journey and walk of just getting themselves out of their own head and just help them along the journey towards just a prosperous path. So you answered that question so well that I actually want to know a little bit deeper of the knowledge you've gained. And the thing that you had in your notes was NLP. So can you explain what NLP is and who either created this or just everything that you understand in helping you in your life coaching business?
Sure. So it's actually nice that it's coming up now, because you said something about your environment and perspective and all of that. So that's what NLP is all about. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And I'm not one to throw out statistics and all that. That's not my thing. I could Google it for you if you want. But essentially, NLP has everything to do with our communication. It's a communication model, okay? We're taking in a bunch of information. Our subconscious and conscious minds are all taking in information. And how we absorb that information is crucial, because what we do with it is we either delete it, we distort it, or we generalize it, okay? And that's all based on criteria like time, location, our own memories, things like that, okay? So we have life happening, information's being thrown at us. I talk with my hands, I'm Italian.
I like that.
Information's being thrown at us. And then we have our internal representation, okay? So now we have this information, we're processing it, doing the thing. Now we have a representation of what that means. And now, because of that, that's how our actions and our behaviors come about, which then, of course, lead to our results. Okay. So I have an example to give you. So this past Thanksgiving, I went for a jog outside. Okay. And I didn't want to just put my phone on do not disturb or whatever. I don't even know how to do everything on my phone, to be honest with you. But
okay.
I was running outside and my phone was going off. In my ear, I had my music on and it was interrupting my music. And so the first thought, I will be really honest with you, is that I said, it's just interrupting my music. This is annoying. But then quickly, because I've trained myself well enough that I do have thoughts, but it's about what you do with those thoughts. I said, no, you know what? I am so blessed. I am so blessed because I have all these people texting me, happy Thanksgiving, checking in on me, saying hi. It's the same information. It's the same information. The text message is coming through, interrupting my music. But I went from this thought of this is a nuisance to this is a blessing with the same information. That's what NLP is about. And I feel that if we can all understand that better and practice that within our own lives, like you said, John, our relationships would just be healed. They would be better. They would be healthier, at least. Not everything's going to always be sunshine and rainbows and nothing's perfect. We don't strive for perfection. In fact, when we can let our guards down and be vulnerable and be still good enough with ourselves to put that out there, that's actually strength. That's confidence. When you're vulnerable enough to be able to do that and put yourself out there, that's courage. That says a lot more. That says a lot more. So that's what NLP is. It's about your perception of life and what you're doing about it, which then leads to your results.
So one of the things that I was taught maybe like 6-7 years ago, it's really simple. It's called E plus R equals O. And it's exactly what you explained to the T, just more layman's terms. Ready? So you have an event. The event was people were buzzing your ear while you're running, interrupting your music. Your response at first was frustration, but then you turn the dial of the frequency from bitterness to gratitude. So the outcome really was feeling more joy for people in your life being thankful for you on Thanksgiving than it was of them just interrupting your run selfishly, like, leave me alone. This is my moment. This is how I want to be. So we all have that opportunity each day of how we respond to any event. Is it charismatic? Is it patient? Or is it evil? Is it bitter? Is it mean? And then what outcome do we want? Well, I hope most everyone wants a positive outcome. So the big R, our response, is so important to any situation, whether those are relationships or actions that we do to better our lives and those around us, or the opposite. And I think people sometimes don't reflect enough too. And just something I've learned is when you don't reflect enough, you're not really changing the game for yourself. You're just going out of typical behavior. And this is what I do. This is how I operate. Almost like a robot. You said that earlier, just going into robotics after your father passed. And then you had to change your mind to, this is not what life is all about. It's for me to actually feel positive and fulfilled and bring joy to others' lives. And the older you've gotten and the blessings you've had with those people around you, and you kept just searching through YouTube and other friends and mentors and coaches, you're at the next peak of your game. And there will be failures along the way. For all of us, there will. But then the next peak will be greater. So you're just going through this period of life, and people have to understand that it's a long game, not the short game. It's not it's a ultra marathon 100-miler. And who's along you with your buddies in that journey is so critical. I just want to say, I think that's amazing about the whole neuro-linguistic programming that you've learned and how you use that with your clients. And the one thing I do want to know is, I just spoke about this and we did at the very beginning too, but like, what would either be your definition of fulfillment, or how do you think you help clients become fulfilled in their journey?
Well, I love, for me, just using what God gave me. I pray all the time, God, use me. And I'm not kidding. I want God to use me. And I believe that now at this point in my life, I'm capable of whatever is thrown my way. God forbid. I'm not asking for that. But
Yeah.
I do think that with some pain You either fall or you rise. And it leaves you with a choice. And so I feel the most fulfilled when I get to use my gifts and my strengths and my talents, everything that God has given to me. And honestly, all of that with this life coaching, great, because it ends up helping others. It's more than just that. It's about giving, leaving something behind. It's not for self, right? Like you go back to, why am I doing this? Well, I want to live my life to the fullest because I want to go to heaven. I want to meet all those who have gone before me. This is so much bigger than I am. And God, show me the way. Even when I'm struggling, when I don't understand, I can't see it, it hurts. It really hurts. God, show me the way. And I'm not kidding. I feel like God does. Somehow God works in mysterious ways, and God is so good.
He is good all the time. And one thing is that what you said was so important, is people have to know they have a gift. I think sometimes we don't understand that. Whatever that is, again, how you grew up, the parents or lack of parents you had in your life, the lack of value system you had in your life, lack of nourishment you had in your life. But if you understand that you just have at least one gift, which everyone has, because God granted at least one special talent that you have, to go out and use that for good. And the thing that I love about coaching and what you're saying is that when we coach, we serve. And service allows us to feel fulfilled. And someone asked me a question one day, is like, well, why do you take care of yourself too? Well, it's a balance. It's just like being on an airplane and the oxygen mask go down. What do you do first? What are you told to do? You put the oxygen mask on you first so that you're prepared to go help serve others. But if you are in shambles and need heavy practice of therapy and you're just stuck in stressful situations and you're not healthy, it's hard to help people. But you have, and I have too, I have been in those valleys and now I have seen the darkness and know the light. And I think because of that, because of those pain points and sufferings that we went through, we are actually able to help people better now. And you said it again. You said, like, I hope nothing happens, but I'm ready in case there is something. And that's such growth, Ange. That is so powerful what you said. So everyone needs to rewind that one, because we all need to hear that, is we are resilient individuals, but it's how we are made up mentally, physically, and spiritually strong that allows us to be strong for others and their needs.
Yeah. And I would just piggyback off that and say, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. You'll find a way out. And if you want the way out, you'll get there. And then you keep going. You keep going. You keep climbing. You don't stop for yourself. You got to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. And I feel like, especially for women, some people just don't understand that. They have a hard time grasping that. I've learned to. Truly, I have learned to. But it didn't come easy. It comes with some kind of price, just like really anything in life.
Yeah. So to end, there's two things I wanted to discuss, and they're very to the point. So you talked about really your passion for coaching, and you could sum this up in both ways. Like, do you feel like this is your true mission in life, or one of your true missions?
Yeah, I do. I feel like in some capacity, this is my true mission. However that manifests is one thing, right? So it could be one-on-one coaching. It could be public motivational speaking. It could be just being a really good friend, wife, family member. It could be volunteering. But I do think that I know what I bring to the table at this point in my life, and it took a long time to get here. So I'm not going to let it go to waste. They say the sky is the limit. I understand what that means, but the sky isn't the limit in my book. There is no limit. And I've said that to many people. There is no limit in my books. I want to just keep going until I can rest one day, God willing, down the road and say, I did it my way. And I love that song by Frank Sinatra.
Great song. Frank Sinatra.
Probably
I love it.
my favorite song of all time.
It's a beautiful song. Love that song too. I remember that brings me back memories of him and I singing that song many years ago.
It's a great
So
song.
you pretty much summed up where I was going to my last question is your vision is exactly that. There is no limits. Your vision is to just wherever God takes you and under his will and in your actions to fulfill both in a joyful way, to serve people, to love people. And I'm witnessing you in the past year or two, and I mean, your trajectory is so high. It is unbelievable. And you just radiate love and authenticity, and it's a true heart for others because you do love them in what you do. And there's no one better to be in your corner than someone like you in the battle of life sometimes, or
Wow.
just going through life and finding their purpose. So Ange, I know there's a lot in store for you. I would love to see you write a book one day. I know you may have a course one day on coaching, whether it's for women or for both men and women, but you are a rock star. You are a blessing to this earth.
So are you. Molding Minds, everybody. Molding Minds. I read it in one day. I couldn't put the book down. Molding Minds by Grdina. Okay, go read it. It's great. Shout out.
I appreciate that, Ange.
Of course.
And like anything you do in life, when you write more and you speak more and you just live out your calling more, I really do think that God blesses you to produce more fruits. And
So
we're
great.
both doing that. We're both doing that. And at the end, we're planting seeds for people's hearts and their souls and their minds to just become better citizens of heaven. That's the way I look at it. And I'm just so proud of what you're doing and who you are, more importantly. So
I got to tell you something real
go
quick
ahead.
before
Yeah.
we wrap it up.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a nice transition because I wanted to mention this to you. Right before we got on, I said to my husband, you know, honey, I feel like tonight is a dream come true. I'm serious. I said, I feel like tonight is a dream come true. And I said, even though it's a buddy and we've known each other for a while, that kind of thing, like, this is awesome. Like, this is awesome. And I've visualized this stuff in my head so much that for tonight to actually happen leaves me speechless. And I just want to thank you, John, for all that you're doing and your authentic energy and how you spread the word of God. It's so important. Without God, I would be nothing, truly. And I want to thank you as well for your contributions.
Well, I am speechless. And I just do want to say on your end, for being your first podcast as a guest, that you knocked it out of the park because of who you are and the growth that you've put in, the work you've put in as an individual for coaching, speaking, your own podcast, and your creativity and curiosity to sharpen the blade every day. You think about where you are now and where you would have been 2 years ago. You had such confidence. And I say this to her, I'm praising you because I know everyone could be like Ange. If they just believe in themselves and take action every day and be consistent, and you'll grow, you'll have this exponential growth, you'll have momentum. She's living in her passion, and I see it, and I love it, and I want everyone else to understand. You need to talk to her if you want to be in the same class or cut from the same cloth or raised to new heights. Go talk to Ange. She's there to care for you and get you to the next spot in your life.
If we can do it, so can you.
Truth. Amen to that.
Amen.
Well, Ange, any last comments?
That's it. I just thank you so much. God bless everybody for listening and joining, watching. Maybe we could do another part 2 or something down the road.
I love that. I would love that. Well, everyone, you heard it first from Ange. So go check her out. I'll put all of her contact information in the show notes. Again, All In with Ange. Check her out, social media, and book a call with her. You won't regret it. Love you guys. Be blessed. And this class is dismissed.